Okay, you guys get this window. Who remembers the right one to pick?
Anyone?
Trick question. Exactly. Any of these is the right one to pick. Does not matter because the process that we conform the sequence to renders these useless. So I'm just going to pick one, any old one. I'm going to pick one that's wrong, something like standard. And I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to rename this. Now, first off, in these CS5, you guys are likely starting out with thumbnail view. Makes it look something like this, except it's not going to be a black square. It's going to be something that looks more like that icon. We want list view, so just in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, click this little list view icon. And this will turn to list view. Now that we're in list view, how are you now? Is it done? So you were able to select the folder, save as, open the project. Great. Is anybody else still stuck on that part? Awesome. Let's go ahead and rename this. To do so, we're going to do one long click on it or hit enter while it's highlighted. I'm going to name it the thought, SEQ for sequence. And I'm going to hit enter again. And that will confirm that sequence name change. Okay, next step, let's import our assets. So let's go ahead and double click in the empty gray area. And it's going to bring us to our project folder. Your guys's might look something similar to this, except you probably have one or two more folders than I do. One is Adobe Autosave, and one is Premiere Preview Files. Maybe you don't have that one yet, maybe you do. But regardless, ignore those. The only one we care about right now is this one, Assets. Let's go ahead and highlight Assets and click Import. Okay. Next step, one thing that your program has, or doesn't have that mine does, is the ability to bring things inside of folders when you select a folder to import. Notice how my video is in that folder. Yours are all just listed out. Okay? Not a problem at all. Hey. Not a problem at all. All you guys have to do, well, what I'm going to do is make mine look like yours by dragging out the video and placing them next to the audio like this. We're going to make a new bin inside of Assets. So highlight Assets and hit Command B, or you could click this little folder button down here called New Bin. When I do that, it makes a new bin inside of Assets. And what are we going to call it? Huh?
Is that audio?
We could do either or. We have to do both eventually.
Oh.
So let's do audio. We're going to name this audio. I'm going to click away. And let's drag our audio track into the audio bin. Boom, boom. Now that we're done organizing audio, we can fold it up and truncate it. Now we want to make a bin for video. We're going to highlight Assets again, hit Command B. You guessed it. We're going to name it Video. I'm going to click away. And I'm going to highlight all video. To do so, simple. I'm going to left click the first one, scroll down, hold down Shift, left click the last one, drag and drop into the video bin. Now that they're in there, I can fold that up. Next step, let's get our sequence in a bin, just in case we have multiple sequences. Command B, without anything highlighted. Command B, new bin. We're going to call this SEQ for sequences. I'm going to drag in the thought sequence into that bin and fold it up. So now yours should look something organized like this. We do not have many files in this project, guys. Less than 20, I think. But when you're dealing with 150 or 200, this becomes critical, as you can imagine. Okay. Let's begin. First step. Let's conform our sequence. Right now, this sequence is still in some wonky settings. Because remember, I picked an incorrect preset. How can I tell? Well, I'm going to drop down the sequence bin. And alongside the sequence, I can see some specs on it. As can you. First off, is that the right frame rate? No. Let's keep going. Is that the right resolution? Holy cow, no. Is that the right pixel aspect ratio? No. 32,000 hertz stereo. Have you ever seen something like that? No. So, really, really wrong. Cool. Let's go ahead and drop down assets. Let's drop down video. Let's navigate to a clip that is the ideal settings, and I'm liking this one right here, 23976. Let's check the resolution. 1920 by 1080, 1.0 pixel aspect ratio, 48,000 hertz. Everything looks solid with this clip. So what we're going to do is drag this clip. We're going to use this clip to conform this sequence. So go ahead and drag it over to the sequence. It does not matter how much you take, how little you take, where you put it, does not matter. Drop it and wait for the question. There's the question. Yeah?
So I was doing this in CC, and I picked like a standard, and I never got the question.
Did you pull your audio in first by any chance?
No.
You positive?
Yeah, like my.
Your audio, the song? And you didn't get the question?
I didn't get the question.
By any chance, did you uncheck this maybe one time that you did get the question?
I don't think, because I was following your video. I followed your video and I followed the.
Then that is really weird. Then,
Is it maybe wrong?
huh?
Is it maybe wrong?
I'd have to look at it.
Okay.
Even if it is, there is still hope to make a correct one and just copy and paste the work that you've done. Regardless, I mean, I've never seen it not pop up unless someone has unticked that box or dragged something else by accident in first. So if it happens again, maybe even screen record it. Let me know. Take some screenshots because I'd like to investigate that. Clip does not match the sequence settings. What do we click? This one? No, this one. Now let's go back and look at the specs of this here sequence. Oh, look at that change. 23976. Let's look at the resolution. Beautiful, beautiful. So now we know that we're about to edit in a perfect sequence.
What about if our, like, usually, like, I guess songs, like, audio files of songs would be in 44.1 K, but that one says 48?
It shouldn't make a difference.
Like, our song, if you import our song, it's not going to be, like, a half step higher or something?
Nope.
Like that?
Nope. This program's smart enough for that, luckily. The only thing you wouldn't want to do is drag in the song first.
You don't want to drag.
You don't want to drag the song in first. Now that we've done this, we can delete this. It's useless to us now. We've already conformed our sequence. Okay, cool. Let's begin. Okay. Go ahead and drop down video. And let me pull up This is the order of things. Establishing dolly-like shot down hallway. Okay. And then we have the establishing wide shot of the classroom. All right. So let's go ahead and double-click our first clip, 9783. Double-click it down here in the project tab, and it's going to pop up here in the source view.
Recording.
All right. Now, is this the tracking shot down the hallway? No. Why isn't it up here at the beginning?
Because we shot it in the order that was most comfortable. Shoot.
We did do that. Yes, we did. But why wasn't it the first thing that I remember it being the first thing we filmed?
Was it a higher frames per second?
Nope. Oh, well, that's actually one of the reasons why, yes. But even the number is higher. It's way down here. Why would the number be higher even though we filmed a different day?
Is that because we formatted the cards?
It's because we filmed on different days with different cameras. Each individual camera has a different number that it's on. Unless you reset that number, then it goes all the way up to 9999. Unless you reset that when you get your camera, it's going to pick up right where the last student left off. Okay? Luckily, or I don't know if it's lucky, but we were both in the 9000s. But this could have easily been 0178 because I got a different camera package for us for these different days. Interesting. All right. Well, let's go ahead and see all the way down here at the bottom if these are the correct ones. I'm going to double click the first one. Oops. 88. I'll zoom back up. 9989. Double click that, and sure enough, recording. This is the chair down the hallway. Whenever you're ready, we've got our hallway tracking shot. Definitely drifting. Why was that one in? Ooh, and how does he know that? Ooh, it's so conveniently right there. We can see. Why was it?
Was it because we wanted to make it slow?
We wanted to make it slow-mo for the reason being. Well, we're going to be adding warp stabilizer, but why is it a good idea to make something slow-mo if you're worried about it being shaky?
You get more frames.
You get more frames. Time is passing slower. If you ever watch your slow-mo videos on your iPhone, it makes even your shaky hands look really smooth. So, for a shot like this, it makes a lot of sense to up that the frame rate. Why didn't we go all the way up to 60? Those cameras go up to 60. Why didn't we?
Because it's a 720p.
Bingo. Because when you go up to 60 frames per second on that camera, you sacrifice resolution. Big sacrifice, down to 1280 by 720. And for us, we didn't really need super slow-mo. We just wanted to help us out a little bit while retaining good old-fashioned 1920 by 1080. So, it looks like we did this twice. Now, before we watch these, let's slow them down. What we're about to do is conform these to 24 frames per second, 23.976. In a very particular way. This is how you should always take slow-mo footage that's shot at a higher frame rate and slow it down, how I'm about to show you. So if you ever forget, come back to this screen recording from this day and watch what we're about to do. So this is in 2997. What we're going to do is right-click it. Go up and look for the word modify. In there, look for that word interpret footage, or that two words, interpret footage, and click it. You're going to get this window pop up. Frame rate. It's automatically used frame rate from file, 29. We want to assume this frame rate. And what are we going to type?
23.976.
That is correct. And when you click away, it might round up to 23.98, but it does remember exactly what you typed. So don't let that alarm you. Notice that when I did that, the duration jumped up. Can anybody see what we're doing here? Can anybody see the difference of this versus just clicking speed and slowing it down by 10%?
It's just the same amount of images, but they're farther apart in time.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. That is exactly what we're doing. We're not making the computer work and delete some or spread some out over the course of time. What we're doing is making it fit perfectly to our sequence. We're taking every frame in 30 frames per second and just spreading them out over time. So instead of having a more dense version, they're just getting spread out, which elongates the footage and yields a gorgeous 24 frames per second slow-mo. When you watch the slow-mo guys on YouTube or anything like that, they're taking the 1,000 frames per second that they recorded in and doing exactly this. Why don't we type something like 20? It would feel choppy. It would feel too choppy. You could put this at 1 if you wanted to. And every single second, 1 frame would happen of those 30 frames per second. Multiplying the length of the entire thing by 30, right? 23.976. Cool. Once we've done that, we hit OK. Let's look at our specs for it. And sure enough, our slow-mo clip is no longer reading 29. It's reading 23. Bingo.
So there is a difference if I type 23.98 instead of 23.976.
Yeah. Even though if did you see how it rounded it when we were in that window? It's just doing that because of the size of the input box. But no matter what you type, even if it's 4 decimals long, it'll be here. So, now if we watch this.
Ready. Chair down the hallway.
Audio gets slowed down at only 6 frames more. So it's not very much, but you can hear it. Luckily for us, we don't care about the audio, so that doesn't matter. But sure enough, we've got a nice 24 frames per second slow-mo. So many music videos that you see from big artists use this technique from 30 down to 24. Did we go over the equation?
Could you repeat one more time? What was the difference between, just slowing it down with a plugin than, changing the actual frame rates?
Yeah, because if you were to just slow it down by 15%, 20%, any percentage, you're not going to be allotting every single frame to a 23.976 sequence, basically. So, for instance, this is your 30 frames per second clip. This is every single slot. This is 1 second long right here. Let's see here. This is 1 second. You've got 30 frames per second, and then you've got a 24 frames per second sequence. Now this is not to scale. But what you're doing when we're conforming it this way is taking this one and putting it there, taking that one and putting it there, taking that one, putting it there, taking that one and putting it there. Every single hole gets filled. When you just do a percentage, what it'll do is it might use this one, it might use this one, it might hang on this one for 2 frames and then use this one. It'll just be kind of staggering and it won't be very fluid. It's not going to be a fluid image. It's just going to be guessing.
Like the frame rate conversion, like it has more information almost. Like the 30 has to go into 24.
It has way more information, exactly. And that all you're doing is stretching that out to the lowest frame rate possible, which is 24 for us. The lowest acceptable frame rate. So imagine 1,000 frames per second going to 24. Every single image that it takes gets allotted, which is why even 1 second of super slow-mo translates to 10 minutes of footage, just because you're just reallotting those images to different places.
We just did is the same for 60 or whatever. Right?
Same exact thing. Now, if you were to do a song, did I show you guys this formula? I don't think I did. this, when you want to do a song, let's just say your song is at 120 beats per minute. Okay? That's at 24 FPS. Just normal speed. Taking you back to high school, if you want to record your song and then do this exact same thing and have it line up perfectly, no guesswork. You align the first downbeat and the very last beat of the song will be perfectly in time. You just do this math. 24x equals 3 times 12, 36, 3,600. Can somebody plug that into a calculator for me? 24 into 3,600.
Somebody doing it? Okay. 300. I did it wrong.
Yeah.
150.
150 sounds about right to me.
Yeah. Oh.
150 beats per minute. That's what the click should be for the artist performing the song if you're at 30 frames per second. Then you do this trick and the song will be perfectly in time again after you've conformed it and assumed that frame. So if you're doing it in something like 60 frames per second, no problem. Same exact equation. So on and so forth. We don't have to sync anything up here, so it's a little bit easier. We've done it once. Now, you can conform multiple clips. So in theory, I could have clicked both of these and done the interpret, but I purposely just did one so that we could do it one more time. So let's go ahead and slow down 9990 as well. Highlight, right click, modify, interpret, assume, 23.976. I'm going to click away and watch this 19 turn to something else. Oh no, I guess it already did it when I typed it in. And we're going to hit OK. So now this one's slow down as well. So now let's select what we want. Let's watch the first take.
Definitely drifting.
This is the one where the whole camera went to the left a little bit. We didn't have the wheels quite figured out yet. So, let's go ahead and watch the second take, 9990. I'm just double-clicking these in the Project tab.
Recording. He's recording. This is take 2 whenever you're ready.
Now that's definitely the stronger take simply because we don't have any of that drifting. So I'm going to take it from after this kind of camera move up. So right around 720 is where I'm going to start this. How do we mark our endpoint? I. Now I'm going to hit spacebar, and I'm keeping in mind that I want a slow fade from black for the beginning of this video. So I'm going to let this thing play out a bit. We can always cut it short later. And I'm going to stop it right around here. 1419. How do we mark our out point? Oh. Let's go ahead and put it in our sequence. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to click, put my cursor over top of the image itself, click and drag down, and I'm not going to put it right at the beginning of my sequence. I'm going to put it a little ways away. Does anybody remember why? Just so you have room to mess with the beginning in case you wanted to extend this or add a title or anything. Just gives you the ability to easily box select. So, okay. we've got our first clip in there. Let's get our second clip. What is our second clip? The establishing wide shot of the classroom, and the talent is not writing. So let's go ahead and double click, go back up top and double click 9783. Let's see if this is our shot. Shot number 3, wide shot of the room. He's alone, not writing. So this is that shot. Now, before we select this, before we mark our in and out points and spend time doing that, you always want to double click the next clip to see if you did it again. Because if you guys did a vocal take of a song and there's 6 of them, which one is probably the one that you were going to use?
The 4th or the 5th.
Or the 6th maybe. At least for I don't know if we could do a poll in here, but oftentimes one of the last ones that you do are typically the ones where you're like, all right, that was finally good enough. So nearer to the end, no matter. So let's go ahead and double click 9785 and just see if it's the same clip or not.
Record.
Okay, is it the same clip? No, we've moved on at this point. So now we know that this is the only time we've done it, and we're going to double click it and mark our in and out point. Wide shot of the room. He's alone, not writing. Here goes. I'm going to watch it through, see what we got. I think I'm going to take it when my head is more up like this, and then right before my head moves down, so that we have a little bit of motion right away, so that people's eyes go towards your content. A lot of people would have just cut anywhere in here. You want a little bit of motion, but you don't want motion right away either. I like maybe a half a second. So right around here, 1522 is where I'm going to mark my in point. I'm going to hit spacebar, and then I'm going to hit spacebar again when I feel like I'm bored of this clip. Right around there, 1815. Maybe a few moments before I'm bored. Always leave your audience wanting a little bit more. If you find that comfortable spot where you're like, okay, I'm content with this, rewind it 0.5 seconds and cut there instead. And I guarantee you, your video will feel more like a professional video. Ready?
Can you say it again?
When you're working on your videos, I dare you to shorten the duration of clip. So how long you're letting the audience see this clip, if you try just a whole nother version of your video where you shorten all of them by 50% or even just 25%, you'll feel like, oh wow, this feels like a bigger deal. Because something that the big guys don't do is leave clips on for a while.
It's almost like maybe an amateur mistake or thought would be maybe, oh, this is an awesome clip I got. I want to like suck the juice out of it as much as I can.
And you want to milk it. And what the big guys do is every single shot, you're left wanting more. Watch an Ariana Grande video or anybody, a Katy Perry video, they cut it right when you're like, oh man, I really like this shot. You know what I mean? Or anything. I mean, what's that? You know, Maroon 5. Those big guys, they do, because that's the whole point, is that you want to watch it again and again. You never got bored of any little part of it. Okay, so my out point was 1815 there. Let's go ahead and drag it down and drop it. Now, what can somebody say about this before I drop it? Are there any red flags to you? Good memory. Good memory. This is weeks ago. What she said was move the playhead so that it snaps. Absolutely correct. Now, is my playhead right at the end? I do know that it is. But your eyes might not be able to tell. And to be honest, even though I know that it is, sometimes I mess that up. So the best thing to do would be to come down here, hit up on my keyboard to move it to another area. Or just click and drag it away.
What was the shortcut for zooming in and out on the timeline?
Command plus and Command minus. If you're in the same shortcuts as me, which are the Final Cut 7. Yep, I'll show you where that is. To change to the right shortcuts, if it's not working, is Premiere Pro. Keyboard shortcuts, keyboard layout preset, click that drop down and go to Final Cut 7. So now that my playhead's far away from the end of that clip, and I have snapping on, sometimes you can accidentally turn snapping off with the N key. It's on. I'm going to click this and drag this and drop it. Okay.
Were you saying the playhead has to be there?
What?
Were you saying the playhead has to be
The playhead has to be far away from it.
Oh.
Because, oh, that's right,
It's
you
like
weren't here.
A little close, then
If it's
snap.
one frame away,
Gotcha.
your eyes cannot see it, and then you have one frame of black that can sometimes go unnoticed. to the untrained. And then you export it and upload it to YouTube with one little frame of black, and the artist is angry. So,
Why is that? Because it'll try to snap to where the playhead is?
exactly. So let me just delete this. So I'm going to zoom in all the way to microscopic scale. So these are one frame at a time. So this is how much I'm zoomed in. So I'm going to move one frame over. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. Now we can see it when I'm zoomed in like that. But if you're going quickly, that just looks like it's at the end. I drag it, I drop it. Moving right along. It looks a little bit obvious here because we're all staring at it in the face, but trust me, it goes unnoticed, and it can be an issue, especially if you're zoomed out working on a long music video like this. You really don't see it, and of course everyone's going to see it really blatantly right now because we're focusing on it, but sometimes it's really hard to see.
Have you ever,
Oh, I've done that multiple times, absolutely.
like, all the way finished product?
No, no.
You have to move everything that's in like, you know what I mean? You have to kind of move everything else, or just kind of stretch that.
You could just stretch that
Oh,
once
okay.
if you wanted to. The one that also stinks is being one frame in instead of one frame out. That because sometimes if you're trying to time something on the downbeat cymbal crash, drag this in, playhead was in the wrong spot. You've just sliced off one frame of that other clip. Okay. Lots of issues can happen with it. So when in doubt, just hit your up key, and then if you hit your down key again after you've hit your up key, that will jump to the end of that clip. And that's a little bit risky business, but as long as you use the up and down, that is a safe way to make sure that you're on the end of that clip. And now when I snap, I know I'm snapping right. Yeah.
I noticed yours just saved. Is there a way to set when it auto saves?
On these computers,
Oh, wait.
yeah.
Okay.
I think there is. Did you just find it?
Yeah, if you go to Premiere Pro Preferences and then there's literally an auto.
An autosave feature. So guys, when you're working on one of these for a long period of time, it might be worth going into your autosave preferences. So Premiere Pro Preferences Autosave, and setting that automatically save project every blank minutes. Now with the Creative Cloud, you can save backups to the Creative Cloud so that even if your computer takes a dive in a pool, you're still okay. Okay. Now, let's move on. Now, one thing that I didn't do when we made this, which was my mistake, and learn from this mistake now, is I did not copy and paste our shot list when we wrote it in chronological order before rearranging for the production order.
Oh, yeah.
We were going kind of fast, time was tight, that was a mistake. Now, I've got to, and luckily I remember, and you guys probably do as well, the order of these things, but now it just makes our job a little bit harder. We're still going to try to reference this. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to order this. I'm going to copy it now, go down here and paste it. Wide establishing shot of classroom. All right, establishing wide shot of classroom. Talent is writing now. That is definitely near the end. I'm going to hit Command X to cut that and place it near the end. Medium, tight, slider action, talent is stuck, writer's block, and then has a satisfaction on finding an idea. So that seems like it would come next. Let's just make sure there's no others. Insert shot, close-up of hand picking up pencil. That comes after. Close. Yep. Okay. So that's correct. Insert shot of hand picking up pencil. Insert shot of lead hitting the paper. Begins to write music notes. Tight rack focus from pencil moving as it's writing to Talent's face. Yep. and then wide establishing shot of the classroom. Boom. Love it. Then, bookend, establishing dolly-like shot down the hallway. But what could we do different on this one? Reverse it. Yeah. Yeah. I felt like we had that in there. We'll get some experience with that. Okay. So, now looking at this. Medium tight slider action, Talon is stuck, writer's block. And then he finds his idea. Okay, so we know that now 9785. Let's see what this is. Okay, she's recording. So this is shot number 4. This is near the end of pulling away from the writer. And I'm just going to pretend to write, and you're going to basically go whenever you're ready, okay? Talent is writing now. Oh yeah, this was your shot, wasn't it? You were the DP? Yeah. Let's see if we do it again. I believe we did. Let's go 9786. So, here we go. You do it. Here we go. And, yep, we did it again. And there, she had a spotter. It was you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 9787. Let's keep going until we find that we moved on from that clip. Okay, we've moved on by now at 9787. So let's go back to 9786. Here we go again. I'm going to start writing. You're going to do whatever you do when you do it. Here we go. Okay, so we're definitely going to be testing Whoop Stabilizer for this one. But let's go ahead and pick our in and out points. Whatever you do. Kind of liked it right before. Let's see here. We're just going to take the whole thing. We're going to take it from, let's see what my in point was. 9 seconds. Even though we have a little hiccup right there. And then I like this hand coming up. Boom. Right there. 14-14. Oh, for out point. Is this the next shot, though? So what are we going to do? We're going to mark it. Over here. We're going to right-click it. Label. That's too close. We're going to label it Caribbean. Yeah. It's going to change the color of that clip so that we can easily come back to this and see which ones we've skipped over because we didn't shoot in chronological order.
So we're not going to stick it in the timeline right now?
I would not.
And what about our in and out points?
That was just so that when we come back to it, we have it.
But they're still there?
They will absolutely still be there. Yep, absolutely. That work is not lost. Okay, something's wrong. Because that shot of the crinkled up paper isn't in this thing. Right? Am I losing my mind? Okay. Is this the one? Is this us? This must be us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the fun too.
Yeah, it's in the front.
And look, we even copied and pasted. I was giving us a hard time. I was giving myself a hard time, and we did it. All right, so. And we have, all right, oh, wonderful, wonderful. So let's continue on. So wide shot of the room, he is alone, not writing. So we have that in. The next shot is the crumpled up shot on the floor. So let's go ahead and find that. And I found it, 9787. Should I mark my in and out points?
No.
What should I do?
Check. We also did a couple of takes with that one.
That's what I was trying to get out of you, is don't mark your in and out points until you know that it's the one that you want to spend that crucial time of yours doing. Up, looks like 9788 is also crumpled up paper. 9789, oh, if my memory is, this is when we couldn't get it to drop correctly in the frame, right?
Yeah, it would like roll out of the
It would roll out, yeah. I'm about to double click 9790 to check it. and then we've moved on. So I'm going to go back to 9789, and this would be one of those situations where I know the last one was the one, because we would have just moved on if we got it correct. So I'm going to hit play.
Recording.
All right, here's take 3 of the low shot of the crumpled up paper on the floor. Wonderful. So I'm going to go before that paper comes into frame. I'm going to give it a second before it as well. I'm going to mark my in point at around 7:19 to give it the frame a little bit of stillness before this paper starts coming in. Mark my in point with I. Hit spacebar. Give it a few seconds when it's come to a complete stop. Oh, I stopped at around 11 seconds. I'm going to mark my out point there. And I'm going to drag it down. Now, before I drag it, I'm going to check where my playhead is. It's nice and far away. That's good. Click, drag, drop. Okay. Now, let's pinpoint some of the issues that you guys are having with yours instead of finishing off cutting this. We're going to finish off cutting it next class. Right now what we're going to do is we're going to work on these 3 clips, and I'm going to focus on the digital panning and zooming with automation and keyframes, which is huge for us, and more warp stabilizer practice. Okay? So let's start off with warp stabilizer practice, this first shot. Cool. Bottom left corner, bottom left quadrant, go to the Effects tab. In the search bar, warp. Warp stabilizer, we're going to add that to this clip. Now we could just drag it onto it, but I don't like doing it that way. How do we like doing it? Double click. Then what? Yep. Correct. Yep. And why do we do it this way?
Those are like the 3 that are always there, but you want warp stabilizer before your other.
You do want all of that globally to say we want to control where we put our plugins. You wouldn't just drag a compressor onto your vocal track. You would have a specific place that you would want to put that. Warp stabilizer. Let's go ahead and drag it under time remapping and drop it. And off to the races our CPU goes. Right now it is reading every single pixel in every single frame. Calculator. 1920 times 1080. 2,073,000 pixels. It's reading every frame. Times 24 frames per second. This clip was about 3 seconds long. Times 3. Oops. Times 3. Big number. Lots of pixels it just had to read. Lots of math. Now, by default, the smoothness slider defaults to 50. Do you guys remember what I said is typically where you might end up finding this?
10.
Below 10 or below. Typically, but it's always a good idea to just watch what it does by default. So I'm going to hit spacebar. Wow. That is a lot smoother. Hit spacebar on yours too, just to watch what 50% looks like. You can leave it at 50%. What'd you say? It looks like you're flying. When you're on a glide cam rig, that's lingo. That's what they call it, is they call it flying, because it does look like the camera's flying. Now, do you guys see any artifacting on this? Not too much, to be honest, and I'm good at picking it up, and I don't see very much. Why don't we see much? What was one of the settings that I was drawing your attention to for this shot?
The stabilizer on the lens.
Well, that was already on. Good guess.
It's not
I
30,
saw the
30.
touch
No,
Not the ISO. Not the aperture. There's only one left, people.
Shutter speed.
The shutter speed. We went up on the shutter speed. Why? Knowing that we were going to warp stabilize this. Knowing when you guys are going to be warp stabilizing a shot that's handheld. Why do you go up on the shutter speed?
Because maybe if we would have been too low on the shutter speed, there would have been some motion burn, and that might interact weirdly with the warp stabilizer.
Not might, will. Okay? The faster your shutter speed, the more each one of your frames is like a still image with no motion blur, which is what Warp Stabilizer wants. So, this being a higher shutter speed, we've got this 50% smoothness with no artifacting at all. So I might leave it right at 50. Yeah.
We usually use a 50 shutter speed. What did we use here?
For 30 frames per second. Does anybody remember? What shutter speed we set this to?
Is it I mean, we would want 60, but
Technically, we would want 60.
Okay.
just 100.
Huh?
Just 100.
100? I don't remember what we did. It was either 60 or higher. The higher, the better, though. Whatever we could afford. Now, this shot, the next shot, it's a little bit crooked. This is what I was showing you. Guys, and I've seen it in some of these drafts. You're going to shoot things that look kind of level on your camera, or maybe they won't, and you won't even realize it. And then in post-production, you'll realize that something is pretty crooked. This isn't that bad. Whoever did this one, it's not that bad. But it is a little bit this way. And I want to rotate it a little bit clockwise. Just a tiny bit.
What's your guide in this specific shot?
Verticals.
But which line? Is it like, oh, okay.
Verticals. This vertical line right here, I can see is more like this. Okay? This line is a little bit diagonal, but you're not gonna get your verticals and your horizontals all to be parallel,
right,
unless you're Wes Anderson. So you have to try to get your verticals at the very least nice and straight. Yeah.
Alright, so like, would you base which verticals you want straight on your subject, or like what's in focus?
The world has straight verticals that should be vertical no matter what. No matter where you put this camera in this room, no matter what you're angling it at, unless you're doing a Dutch angle, no matter where you are, how high or how low, the straight up and down corners of this room should be straight on camera. Does that make sense? So, let's fix it. Just like you guys should fix yours in post.
I got a question like, to add to that.
Yeah.
When you're messing with the leveling of the tripod, how do you keep that in mind? And just like keep an eye out for the screen and what it's looking at.
Yep, look at the sides of the screen. If your camera has the grid on, you could turn grid on. You basically just want to look for those vertical lines in a room and make sure that they look as straight up and
I
down.
think I got some like similar where I thought it was vertically straight, but I could tell the air bubble wasn't, but I just did it anyway.
Okay,
Just a bubble indicator.
that bubble indicator should help you.
Yeah, I had it in the middle of the bubble.
But always trust your eye.
Yeah,
That is not the end all be all.
Yeah,
Use it sometimes if you have to, but for sure, trust your eye as well. Okay? So let's just say you mess it up and you want to straighten this out a little bit, like this one. We're going to double click the clip. It's going to pop up in the source view. We're going to go to Effect Controls. Motion. Drop it down. What are we about to adjust?
Rotation.
Yeah. What else are we going to eventually have to adjust?
Zoom a little bit.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's find out why. He is correct. So let's get the rotation right first. And right now I'm going to be looking at this line over here, this corner of the room. I'm going to wait for that to look straight up and down.
Because you start seeing the edges.
Exactly. Now at 1%, it's too much. I'm going to go 2.5.
And for the other side, is it just negatives?
Yep, if you want to rotate counterclockwise, it's negative number. Now, he said you have to zoom in. Why? Because when you rotate something that fits perfectly, you're going to get a little bit of negative space on the edges. Yeah.
Is there a shortcut if I select the preview window and I want to zoom in without just going 150? Sorry. Is there a shortcut for zooming in?
Like that?
It was a fit and I just.
You guys are like on a screen recorders.
Oh. You could probably set one. If you're trying to do that, go back to fit, and then you could just hover over that and do tilde, shift tilde to see bigger. That's what I would do to see something bigger quicker. Okay, now we've got to adjust for this little space. They're basically on all sides. Some are more visible than others. This one's not very visible because it's pretty dark down there. We're going to adjust that with scale. Let's go up a little bit. Just enough so that all those black edges disappear. So watch. I'm going to watch this one right here when I'm pushing this up. Right there. 101 looks good on that edge, but wait a minute. I look up here. Not good there. So I'm going to go to 102. I'm going to check that upper right corner again, and sure enough, now we've got a nice frame that's level and good to go. Digital zoom and digital pan. Here we go. Automation. Raise your hand if you've worked in Logic or Pro Tools in your life. Good amount of you. That's great. Have you guys ever automated volume before? You've made a point at one volume level, another point at another volume level, and that track, it slowly gets louder as the playhead scrolls by that area. Same principle here, okay? You make two points of data at the very basic form, and it interpolates the level in between. It creates, at least in video editing software, a linear interpolation. In audio editing software, you can do something like that, you can do something like that, you can even do S-curves. For us, we're just doing linear interpolation. So, step one is to think about the shot. What do we want to do? Right now, this is a tripod, stationary, boring shot.
What was the shortcut you did to go to the beginning of the clip?
Up, the up arrow.
Oh.
Up and down arrows go back and forth between all of your incisions. Step one is to think about what you want to do. What do we want to do? Why don't we kind of start over here and move this way and be zooming in to the character to help draw the attention. So we start wider, more on this side of the frame, and we zoom in and kind of center up the guy. We've thought about it. Done. There are two positions that we need to do. Position A, which is at the beginning, and position B, which is at the end. Position A is when we're over here. Position B is when we're on the guy. We don't have to think about the in-between because the program is going to create it itself. So let's make position A. To do so, really important, you have to make sure your playhead is in the right location, which is at the very beginning of the clip. I use my up and down arrows to make sure that it's right at the beginning. So that's step one to doing this correctly. Step two, adjust the position and scale so that you're at where you want to be. Now remember, we wanted to be kind of zoomed out and frame left. Well, if we were to try to be frame left right now using this slider, the 960, so we're trying to be this way, what's obviously going to happen? we're going to get the side. We're going to get a bunch of black. So what do we have to do right off the bat? Even though we're trying to be wider over here, what do we still have to do?
Zoom.
Yeah, we've got to scale in some. So I'm going to scale in a bit to 110. And I'm going to move this as far to this side as possible. So I'm just going to wait for this to touch that. And then I'm going to call it quits, because then that frame will be as far over as possible, and I'm squeezing all the motion out of this as possible. Bam. My horizontal slider is at 1052, if you've done everything else the same as I. Cool. Now let's work on our vertical one. Let's see. Well, I'm a little bit low, so I'm going to raise this up. I can't raise it up too much, but I'm going to raise it up just a tiny bit. Making sure that I'm not accidentally seeing any black bar down here. The number I ended up at is at 507. What I'm doing is just adjusting this image for position A. I'm liking it. Now to make the keyframes. Make sure your playhead is in the right position. Come up here to the effects controls and look on the right side of the effects controls. Do you guys see this little kind of mini timeline over here? This is where you mess with keyframes. This is where you add them, delete them, adjust them. If you do not see this, if you're on a computer that does not have these, check out this arrow right here. This little arrow, looks like a little pyramid of dots, that will hide and show this. Make sure you're back on frame 1. We've already gotten it in position A with the scale and the position. Now what we do is we click the stopwatch next to both of these. And just enabling automation creates the first keyframe where your playhead is. So now if I move my camera over and look at the beginning over here, we see these two half diamonds. Now a keyframe actually looks like basically like a full diamond, but the reason we're only seeing half is because the other half is on the other side of this line, because we're at the very, very beginning here, okay? Now, we make our second and final pair of keyframes. And it's really important where we make these. We have to make them at the very end of the clip. So what would one smart person do? Arrows. Arrow, what arrow button? Down, and then left once. Exactly, thank you. Down and then left once gets you on the very last frame of this clip.
And the left and right is
Frame to frame. There's 24 in a second. Yep. Now that our playhead is in the right location here, it'll mimic it up here as well. Now all we do is have some fun by adjusting these three numbers and getting this in B position. So first off, step 1, which one would you do? I would scale first. We know we want to zoom in. I'm going to scale up to, we were at 110, maybe 116. So I'm going to scale up to 116, and we want to zoom towards this guy. So then what are we going to do? Adjust the position so that we kind of push it over towards me and maybe down a little bit and just kind of center my guy up. Now we see this final keyframe here. The first keyframes, the second keyframes, and if I go back to the beginning of this clip and hit play, we can see a little bit of a zoom. Now, for me, that's way too much. If you do this overboard, it looks weird, okay? It looks very weird. So you can't do too much of this stuff. So that's far too much for my taste. I'm going to go to 113 and maybe not so much on the horizontal thing.
So basically, like, with these, for example, let's say I'm on my last frame, right? Just adjusting how it ends, and I keep doing changes. It's not like each change becomes
A new keyframe.
yeah,
Unless your position isn't on that keyframe.
that will create a new one.
It will create a new one. Watch me right now. Maybe I'm 5 frames off from the end. I move something, and then you get something like this. Whoop! Happens all the time. It's just because your playhead wasn't in the right location. So you can use your up and down arrow keys to make sure you're on the playhead. You can also use this right here.
Oh, that's
This
useful.
jumps you to whichever keyframes you have on any given clip.
Yeah, because kind of trying to put your playhead on that little keyframe might be tricky.
It can be tricky unless you know that if you hit your up arrow, you're on the first one, down arrow, left arrow, you're on the last one. Unless you get that in your fingers and you're faster with that, this is a lot more safe. Okay?
A quick question.
Yeah.
This is kind of just one about mentality in this aspect. Comparing it kind of like to whatever audio production, for instance, music production. They say get it right at the source or whatever. Would it be correct to say that this, even though the beauty of technology and science enables us to do this post, would it have been correct to actually do this intentionally at the source?
Not for the level that we're at.
Okay.
Unless you have a slider and a lens that zooms really smoothly, which we don't, and not many DSLR lenses have that. 9 times out of 10, I can show you big music videos that are still doing this. This was a very fast version of it. But when you're doing it on your own clips, maybe just going from left to right really slowly, you'll see that you wouldn't have been able to do it any smoother in real life. Sometimes, yes, the real thing is the best. What doesn't this have that it would have had if we were actually on a slider moving over? This word starts with a P. I think I've said it before.
Is it panning?
Mm-mm.
Well, we're eliminating content when we're cropping, right? Content
We are eliminating content, yeah. It doesn't have parallax. What's parallax? When you're in your car and you're driving 60 miles an hour on a country road, the trees right next to you, are they moving the same speed or slower than the mountains that are way off in the distance? That's geometry. That is physics. We know, we can understand how close our world is. When I'm standing here and I move from left to right, I can see that these computers right here, you can do it with your own head, are moving a lot faster than the middle row, and the ones in the back are moving the slowest. When we actually do a slider move, the whole world we can see. The geometry of it. When we do an artificial pan, you don't necessarily see that parallax, and it takes a trained eye to realize that this computer's not moving faster than this computer, and this computer's not moving faster than that computer.
So like the more depth, the more.
The more depth, the harder this trick is to pull off. But still, not many people can notice it, and again, this is still really heavy-handed. You just have to do it subtly.
But it is cool. It gives the clip a little bit more life.
A lot more life, yeah, and oops. You'll notice that when you're doing this to your stationary, who was the one that had a lot of tripod shots? I think it was. Hit this on every other shot, or every shot for 3 shots, and then give it a break. You'll be amazed at what kind of production value this adds. Now, we're only 3 clips in. When we finish up editing this and start adding this to more of those other stationary shots, to help tell the story. We haven't even gotten to these shots. The shots of the pencil, the shots of the paper. It's going to be vital when we get to something like this. We're going to be able to zoom in. We're going to be able to do some interesting things. Okay. If you have your own thumb drive or hard drive, you can save this project on there. What I'm also going to do is determine who followed along and who's on one of these computers, and I'm going to take that project file, and then I'll be able to put that on the WT temp for everybody to start off with again. Were you editing on your hard drive?
Yes.
You just unplug it?
Yeah.
Who was following along today on one of these computers that did all the hierarchy? Okay. Good. We have some options.
Like, did you use your own hurricane? Or
Oh, no.
did you use the?
Eli? And that'll be done. You're all good there. All right, guys. Everything, the drafts I did see today were solid. Just be sure that you're adding warp to everything that you think needs warp. When something's crooked, try to straighten it out using the rotation and scale technique. And when something seems a little bit dull to you, use that automation. Try using a little bit of digital panning and zooming. And also consider this. Consider this for anybody that's trying to get into this world. Because I think that that's a symbolic thing. And I said at the beginning of class that literally so much video is needed in this world that people are coming into classes to offer to pay to do it. And it was something, there was these tours that I hear about, and I know a bunch of people that like working on tours, tour managing and stuff. And this gal says the only thing that all these huge tours need are videographers. Massive touring, national-wide, international tours, and every job is filled, minus the videographers. They need good videographers. It's just crazy how much is needed in this world, because it's hard to do, takes a lot of time to learn, patience, artistry, and we're on the way. What'd you say?
Tours like bands playing.
Bands playing. Yeah, people that love the industry and want to be in the music side of it or the tour managing side of it that can't get a job because all the bands say is, oh yeah, well we don't have any room to hire you, but do you know any videographers? So,
I'm just conflicted.
with what?
I was looking at a 70D.
70?
70.
70D.
But then I found
Thank you.
Yeah,
Lumix
see you next week.
GX85.
Don't turn your things in late. Make sure they're in before class next week so that we can watch all of them.
Oh, okay.